Nellie Ashford's makeshift studio sits within the halls of this storage unit.
I had fabrics that my mom had for quilts back in the early 30s.
On any given night, you'll find her here, paintbrush in hand, burning the midnight oil, delicately gluing vintage fabrics to her canvas.
This was a piece of my mother's apron. This was a jacket I had when I lived in New York in the 50s, 60s.
At 79 years old, Nellie doesn't have to go far for inspiration. She relies on her memories when life was slower and times were different.
My mother was born 1893 and my daddy 1894. And they had friends who were older than them at the time. I didn't know they were slaves. And listening to their stories and being around them and smelling the kind of foods that they cooked and just kind of hanging out with them. So I paint about those times, those people who no one would ever know.
As a child growing up in Southwest Charlotte, Nellie remembers sitting in her 4-room school, using her imagination to draw.
I had a friend who said, I remember when we used to draw bunnies and bees, and you would share it with us.
But it wasn't until she started doodling with her grandson in her 50s
This is number 1.
that she realized she might actually have a gift. This piece she calls The Flower Lady became her first.
I didn't sell it. It was mine. I was doing it for me because I didn't ever know that anybody would want what I was thinking about. And I didn't know that it had much value. So that's how I began.
Turns out Nellie was just hitting her stride. She went from making $25,000 a year as a teacher's assistant to up to $25,000 a painting. Before long, her paintings were selling worldwide.
Places that I don't know where they went. Switzerland, Paris, California.
Her art went on to display at exhibits in museums and stores. That's where she met 81-year-old Jackie Baker.
I went up to her after her presentation and reminded her that I had bought some of her art years ago, come to her studio. I don't think she had any memories of me being there. And that's when we got reacquainted.
The two women became fast friends.
And she being a tiny person in stature is like a huge person in her aura.
I think she has a zest for life. I think we have a lot of that in common.
Both born in the same era during segregated times with different lived experiences.
Complete opposites. Complete opposites.
Opposites bonded by a shared love of art and culture.
Oh, I've got this little one over here.
Over time, Jackie filled her kitchen wall with Nellie's paintings.
This is called Just Friends. And one is white and one is black. So I think of us when I see that.
Nellie, the daughter of sharecroppers, Jackie raised by her widowed mother, their lives intertwined by memories of simpler times.
It reminds me of what I grew up seeing. I can relate to almost everything she does because I saw it and lived it as I grew up.
Each piece comes alive with signs marking the past.
I love music. I love piano music. So you'll see pianos in lots of my work if it's inside. That old clock, old people used to call it a timepiece. The knob here, white, used to be porcelain knobs in people's homes. So those kind of things kind of depict some of the things I remember.
Even though Jackie and Nellie met up on occasion, Jackie's never seen her friend in action until today.
Oh, my little
Hey, sweetie, how are you? Surprise!
surprise.
Look at you.
A surprise visit from a dear friend.
This is wonderful. They're always usually done when I'm around. Look at all these magnificent things. Oh my gosh, I can't even look. I don't have any more walls, Nellie.
You done?
No, I was telling them I run out of house.
The old materials, photos, and paintings tucked in this storage unit tell the stories of a generation long gone but not forgotten.
These are the foundations like a building. And whether they be black folk or white folk or Native American people, we stand on their backs. All of the new things that you take for granted, there was a foundation to make it so that you can get to where you are, and hoping that you'll take what you have and keep going with it to reach the stars.
Now well into their golden years,
Describe our connection, Nellie.
We're best buds.
We're best buds.
How about that?
Nellie and Jackie remain good friends, continuing to preserve the history that once kept them apart but eventually brought them together. For Carolina Impact, I'm Sarah Colon Harris reporting.